Welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Darion Henderson. So glad to have you all back with us. This month on WMBF News, we're highlighting Black history all month long during the month of February. Of course, we started with the cornerstone of the Black community, the Black barbershop. Then we went over to the heart of the Black community. We're talking about some good old soul food. Now, we're going to talk about the spirit of the Black community. That's going to be, of course, the entertainment, the music, and I'm so happy to be joined with some people that knows all about it. Let me tell you, I want to start with James Stevens III. He is the owner of Asher Theater here in Myrtle Beach. Then we have Shania Johnson. She's a performer here, and let me tell you, I definitely want to come check her out. And then we have Brook Benton. He is the grandchild of Brook Benton, the infamous Brook Benton, who has quite a couple songs. I cannot wait talk about some songs that I didn't even know your grandfather was a part of nowadays. Yes. Can't wait to get into that. Want to say, James, thank you so much for having us here.
Listen, it's my pleasure to be here, man, with these great entertainers. It's excellent.
This is just simply amazing. Yeah. The place you have here is amazing, and let me tell y'all, their voices are just as amazing as well. I feel as if, you know, when it comes to talking about music, when you're talking about artists and things of that nature, of course, we need to know what our past is, right? If you don't know your past, you won't have a future. I said that a couple times on this series. So let's talk about the history of Black musicians and entertainers. And from, you know, I guess my own research, and you look at a lot of movies, that always starts back in like the juke joint.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Back in the cut,
the chitlin circuit, the juke joint.
So Jerry, tell us a little bit about the juke joint and what it meant back then.
And listen, and you know, even being as old as I am, okay, I'm basically a fossil with these kids up here. But even by being a fossil, I'm still like 40 years away from what was happening back then. Yeah. But if you look at the Sam Cooke specials and the Ray Charles specials and the Brook Benton specials, like, you know, his grandfather was back with Nat King Cole. Yeah. And with Nat King Cole, man, those were the creme de la creme guys. And so Diana Washington and all those people. Mm-hmm. And the sad thing about it is, of course, you know that that's when they have the chitlin circuit, the juke joint circuit, and basically we can perform, but we had to go back to our own spots. Yeah.
And that was a huge problem back then. We talk about just troubles to find places to perform. I mean, bad voices. Yeah. I mean, voices could just, you don't even need a mic, you know, just give me the place, you know. But that was the hardest part, was finding the place. Yes. Of course, we know about segregation and things of that nature, but how did Black artists feel back then going through
like
that?
The Green Book, you know what I'm saying? Like the Green Book is basically, it was like having your own underground railroad. Right. And so, but, you know, there were some places that were flourishing, of course, you know, like the Black Wall Street and going to Oklahoma, but you still got to get to Oklahoma. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Durham, North Carolina, but you still got to get to Durham, North Carolina. That means you're going through some really tough territories to get to where you had to be. And like, it was amazing. I always watched that Sam Cooke thing, because Sam Cooke, they showed Dillon. Now, I was born in Dillon. Yeah. So when they showed Sam Cooke coming through Dillon, I'm like, oh my God, he came to Dillon. You know what I'm saying? And so people like, but his grandfather, and of course, you know, Nat King Cole, they were creme de la creme, because they were actually was accepted more or less into the world of music. And not because, you know, just because of color of the skin, because these guys could write. And his grandfather could write. He was writing, you know, for everybody.
Absolutely. And I mean, like he was saying, your grandfather was heavily involved back then.
Yes, he was definitely a prolific writer. He's wrote for Nat King Cole. Actually, the song "Looking Back," if I'm not mistaken, it was nominated for a Grammy. So that was a song he wrote for Nat King Cole. Also, originally, "It's Just a Matter of Time" was for Nat King Cole. Wow. Him and Clyde Otis wrote that together. He's written for Ruth Brown. He's written for so many artists. Bobby Blue Bland, that song "I'll Take Care of You" that we all know from Drake and Rihanna is actually originally from my grandfather. He wrote that for Bobby Blue Bland. He also wrote for Clyde McPhatter. He's wrote his first few hits from Atlantic Records. So he's just like heavily endowed with the hits. And then he went on to making hits for his own, like, you know, "Rainy Night in Georgia" and Kid-O and things like that.
And we know the power is in the pen. That's where you get that residual income from.
That's Smokey Robinson.
Yeah.
Smokey Robinson, Lamont and Dozier, from all those guys that write, because we can perform, but those people that write, they go on the history. Because, I mean, Smokey is like, and, you know, amazing, like I said, I'm the fossil up here, but at the same time, when I got to perform with a lot of those people, I got to see them at their, and some of them were still at the pinnacle of their careers. Like I got to play Carnegie Hall with Aretha Franklin, which is amazing. I played the Grand Ole Opry with Patti LaBelle. You know what I'm saying? Chicago Theater with Roberta Flack. You know, Al Jarreau. I mean, I have to talk about him because he's a 10-time Grammy winner. But working with all these people, you know, I opened for, you know, the Delphonics, the Dales, I was a young comedian performing on big stages with a lot of these great acts, and it's really cool to be able to historically that I can still talk about them. Like to be, I was born in South Carolina, but look, I could talk about when Richard Pryor at the Comedy Store. I was with him when all the craziness and everything was going down, and all these black comedians, man. You know, Red Fox. I was in Vegas.
Louis.
I was in St. Louis.
Don't skip over there now. You've been mentioning South Carolina.
St. Louis. And listen, so you want to talk about St. Louis? I performed in St. Louis for the baseball Hall of Fame, the Negro Baseball League. I got a jacket. Yes, from I forget the guy's name, but the tall, really good-looking guy. He was older. He played for the Kansas City Monarchs, and I performed there, and it's just amazing, you know. When you get to do these things as a kid, I used to love all these performers, and then I got to actually perform with them.
Be a part of that.
And just, historically, I'm like, wow, you know, I'm here with Aretha Franklin. She calls me. She was at Chess. I met her at Chastain. I was opening for her in Atlanta, and she took me on tour with her. And then she called me up one day and said, Mr. Stevens, she says, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And I was like, what? She says, practice, practice, practice. We're going to Carnegie Hall.
That's amazing.
And I kept the receipt from the hotel where her name was on it because I was just so excited.
So excited about that.
Aretha Franklin, man.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And going back into like the power of the pen we talk about, that gets a little bit harder though, right? Because when you talk about when people were just blatantly stealing the music back then, it's hard to have a pen. Yes. You're just gonna take the whole script. You know what I mean?
Yes. It was hard for African American, like a lot of, even from jazz, because what happens is a lot of them could not write. They could not write music. They just played it from feel, the emotion, the gospel, the spiritual, and it would come across. And what happened was, of course, a lot of white America, they studied music, so they would actually write their music out, and then they would sell their music. So that's the way they stole most of it. And so a lot of it was, basically now you'll see a lot of music that was written by a lot of people, but they were actually really performed by us.
Wow. And that's the blueprint,
and
that
Sam
was really
Cooke,
back then.
Sam Cooke, he sort of like followed into Ray's, because Ray Charles, you remember Ray Charles was like, oh no man, I want my masters. And so Sam Cooke was the same way. He created his own record label, and most like I said, the most powerful people like Babyface, man, he wrote for like 3 or 4 different generations. And he's an amazing writer, amazing writer. And that's
I looked at that documentary on Sam Cooke, a couple documentaries on Sam Cooke actually, and did a lot of reading on him as well. And that, of course, we know about the situation around his death and things of that nature. But when you look around that time as well, he was trying to secure his masters.
Yes, of course.
Which then, next you know, he
was gone.
Ends up dead.
Yes,
and
that happens. It happens in this business, and it happens now in this business. Aaliyah, you don't really truly know what's the mystery behind it, and not a lot of not only like black artists, a lot of white artists as well. Was like, come on, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but Prince, Prince went up against Warner Brothers, and so when all this stuff happens,
and even Taylor Swift, one of the biggest artists right now,
yes,
she's having trouble even with her masters.
Yes,
so that's,
it's the music business is treacherous, and it's ran by a lot of treacherous people. So, but if you're a writer and you do it all the right way, and especially that's something for African American writers or people out there listening, if you're a writer basically register your stuff, register your music, your IPs, your independent properties. Those things that's very important. You gotta register your music, your plays, or anything else that you do, because it's just like August Wilson. That's why he was amazing. I just came back from watching that. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Going back to your grandfather, though, because I want to talk about him just a little bit. Because we're talking about, I know you're more than willing to.
Of course.
You talk about the blueprint that was created back then, and then we talk about now. When we're talking about even doing this interview, you sent over some stuff. I mean, it was like, oh yeah, I sent over Drake too, because I'm like, Drake now, come on,
Right.
Folks will sing your song, you be like, okay now, maybe you stretching it a little bit,
That's
but no, like you were gone.
Yes.
Is now Drake and 21 Savage, Jimmy Cooks, which is number one. It went number one on the Billboard. Number one on the Billboard. I'll Take Care of You. Turned into Drake and Rihanna, Take Care. That Take Care was like 5 times platinum.
Yes.
That's a lot of money.
Yes.
A lot of records
Yes.
sold.
Of course. Yes.
Rainy Night in Georgia. That was sampled by rapper Gucci Mane, and also covered by Rod Stewart. You talk about how prevalent your grandfather's music is now. Of course, it was back then as well.
Yes.
But how it's now being revamped and now being presented to a new audience who potentially probably don't even know that it's him.
That's right.
But it's still the feeling, the vibe, the spirit is there.
I think it's just the fact that back in the days, a lot of artists, they really took time and put in their crafts. Like, they really, they made a deliberate effort to make timeless music.
Yeah.
And it still transcends to this day. I see a lot of artists, when you hear the radio, you hear things that sound so familiar because they keep taking and sampling stuff, and then they sample it again and they sample it again. It's like, go back to the roots of being original.
Yeah.
The artists back in the day, they seem as if they had a thing about being original. They didn't want to sound like the next person. Now it seems like everybody kind of wants to replicate the same sound.
Even in the same sample,
Right.
It'll
Right.
be like 2-3 songs on the radio that has some variation of like the same sample involved with it, and it's like, come on, I mean, it's just like, it goes back to what you were saying, just being original. I will admit though, within my friend group, they know I love a good sample on a good song,
Right.
Because it just gives me like that feel I got when I heard the original. But I'm all about that original too. But nowadays, of course, there's always a space for creativity. But that also comes with a lot of backlash as well sometimes when you step so far out of that box
Yes.
than it was back then. Because
Yes.
I feel like they were making the blueprint. So like now it's kind of like, I don't like it, turn it off. It doesn't fit into the box that we want. What's your thoughts on that?
She likes Beyonce.
Yeah.
She's a Beyonce girl. She's a Beyonce because she sings and dances. So
Yeah.
the two of them. Matter of fact,
Who's an originator? I mean, Beyonce, she...
well, no, she's actually, to me, I think that Beyonce is also Tina Turner.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So when she
Yeah.
came in, matter of fact, when she came in to audition for me, and I'm doing a Motown show, and I'm like, I wanted old school, but she came in, and she was doing Beyonce like nobody business, and I'm like, oh my God! I said, but the people that normally come are older, retired people. So I said,
So
but
they're
I
not singing
saw
Crazy
when I
in
saw it,
Love.
I went, Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And so now she does Tina Turner in our Motown show. The two of them, they do Ike and Tina.
I could say that.
I've been there.
Maybe I'm in the middle of something.
and you come to the show, I've seen them get standing ovations
Wow.
just by doing that piece together.
That's amazing.
You
That's
got to see
amazing.
it.
Yeah, and in Four Tops, he plays Levi Stubbs. We call him Big Perm.
Big Perm, what they call
Yeah,
it.
Big Perm.
Yeah, so he plays Levi Stubbs, and he does it to a T. It is funny because the fact that he's actually there. It's the Four Top Temptation battle within the song. The music is all there, but it's the funniness.
Yeah.
I can't give you everything because you have to come and see it, but they bring those characters to life.
It's something.
And that's amazing. What we do is like, it's old school, but young people come here and they be cracking up. They love it because it's fun. She does Tina Turner like Tina Turner. She captures the whole ambience of Tina Turner.
And it introduces us to like a new generation
To a
as
new
well.
generation.
And before we get over here to Astor Theater, let's talk about Charlie's Place too. Here in Myrtle Beach. I feel as if once again we got to go back to the past and
Gotta
talk
go
about
back
that
to
a
the
little
past
bit.
to know the future,
To
right?
know the future,
Yes.
to understand how do we got to this point. It's probably back in the 1930s and 1950s.
Yes.
big acts, right?
Yes.
Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, Ray Charles, who you,
Louis Armstrong, yes.
Yes, yes.
Louis Armstrong was, oh my God. Matter of fact, I just got a call to do Louis Armstrong, because Louis Armstrong spent time in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
And of course, he was adopted by Jewish people. And he had a really interesting life.
Yeah.
And then he had some letters that he'd written. So someone asked me, because I play trumpet a little bit, and so they asked me, would I do a one-man show with Louis Armstrong? So I'm working on that particular show at home right as we speak. But I love Louis Armstrong as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kiss me. You know, that was like, a kiss is just a kiss. It was like great to do. And so it's just amazing to do this. And then when he came, and I didn't know. You know, I didn't know who he was. We met on a radio interview, and he said, "Hey, sir, I respectively, I am an actor, you know, and blah blah blah." And I said, "Okay, well, cool. You want to come and be a part of this Motown thing?" I said, "I don't know what we're going to do, because I also have another play that we call Shoe Shine that we're putting together." But he came, moving microphones. And now to his biggest role as, they call him Big Perm, but Levi Stubbs, he kills it.
Yeah.
And they love me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And we always say on stage, man, when you love, you go. There's no I in team, but he always.
But there's an M and an E. Understand that? They love me.
It's incredible. But yeah, you were talking about back in the day when I would see those back in got to be 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
When Sam and all these guys, wasn't a 95, so they had to be like on number 9 highway going through, and I would see
Back
where they
roads.
and they come to Carver's place, and they were coming. That's where they were coming to, but Carver's place, and they would play all over the place, but then they would go, and that's where they would come, and they play. All those great performers would be here, right here, and when because of course we still got one of the only black beaches in the United States is right here.
Exactly.
And I go out there sometimes because I want to see like the landmass and where everything was, you know what I mean? And I remember my parents, they all have pictures from Myrtle Beach, from the Atlantic Beach, the black beach, with them pictures that'll say Atlantic Beach on it. And the pictures were black and white.
Wow.
And so, I'll tell you a story. And this is a story I tell in my show sometimes. When I was a little boy, I was like 7, 8 years old. You know, I had the party lines and all that. My dad, his people were from Washington, D.C. His dad was from Washington, D.C. So my dad would go up to Washington, D.C. and go to shows when he got old enough to go visit his father. So he's with James Brown, okay? So he meets James Brown. He calls on the phone. My mom had 7 children. He puts us on the phone, and we're talking to James Brown.
Wow. That's amazing.
And James Brown said, "Hey, how y'all doing? Stay in school. Say it loud. I'm black and proud." and now that was 8 years old. Now, 30 years later, when I'm 38 years old, I'm opening for James Brown at Constitution.
It's a full circle moment.
At Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. I'm standing in my dressing room, and oh my God, I was standing in my dressing room, and I started feeling like I was 8 years old because I didn't know. I'm thinking like, is he gonna come? Is he gonna come and talk to me? Is he gonna come to the door? And all of a sudden, here's this guy comes in. He's all dressed up in this full garb, and he comes up to me and he says, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name is James." He goes, "James, my name's James. That's a good name. James is James." And he said, "Have a good show." And he walks out.
And that's it.
Yeah, but I was like a little boy. I was 8 years old.
Starstruck
I was 8 years old. And then, Ray Charles, you see the picture of me and Ray. And Ray and I, and then I got to be up for the movie. Jamie Foxx and I were the last 2 people up for that movie. But I met Ray Charles in 1986 at the World's Fair. I'm at the World's Fair with Ray Charles. I got my fiance, and I'm opening for Ray. I'm upset because I'm such an admirer of him that they have Ray Charles dressing in the girls' restroom, and they gave us the dressing rooms. Now, I was angry.
Why?
Because I was like, I can't believe they got Ray in the bathroom, and then the Ray Lasser goes, "James, he can't see. He doesn't know where he's at. We need the mirrors for our makeup."
This is true.
Yeah.
Wow.
and so in the 90s, I got to do Ray Charles' 50 Years of Music. You can see it. It's on cable and stuff like that. It was Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, Stevie Wonder, Michael, everybody. I'm on this show. So I get to see Ray again 10 years later. And I said, Ray, me and my fiance, we came to see you. Remember we took pictures and you were like, he goes, oh, did I get her?
Wow.
He said, well, then you got lucky. So the memories, like I'm saying, as a kid, man, all these people that I dreamed about, I got to hang out with. Willie Nelson came up to me in that show. He goes, I heard you do an impression of me. That was so fun.
Yeah.
So James Ingram.
How were they as people, though? Because sometimes, you look up to people for so long and, you finally meet them and it's kind of like, all right. Yeah. That was interesting. You know what I mean?
I haven't really been disappointed in a lot of the people that I met.
I feel like they were humble back then.
Like
much more humble.
A lot of the people, even meeting Garth Brooks and people like that. Garth was excellent, and people talk about these people, but some of them they're different because like being with Al Jarreau, who's a 10-time Grammy winner, in his voice, you thinking that he had the cleanest voice always, but he was smoking and drinking. He was, that kind of thing. I'm like, Al, what are you doing? He's, what do you mean, man? He's smoking and drinking. I'm like, you are blah, blah, blah. Or some of these guys are they have habits and stuff like that. So they have habits. So it's different. And then Richard Pryor and people like that, you know what I mean? Richard Pryor, Red Fox, I got to hang out with these people. I mean, even you guys are probably like, wow, like Martin Lawrence and all those guys, they're nobodies to the people that I got to hang out with. As a baby comedian, I was playing at the Dunes with Jimmy Walker, Roseanne Barr, Sandra Bernhardt, and Jay Leno, and I'm the opening act. And so it's like weird, And I never take a lot of pictures of these people. I just started taking the pictures that are on the wall just because I knew these people. But I've been with so many great performers, man.
That's a blessing.
It's a God thing. I always say it.
And how do you feel now performing at the Astor Theater and being amongst someone who's been well-traveled, well-versed in so many people?
It's amazing. You get to learn a lot. I'm like a empty sponge. I just soak up everything. He's the comedy legend, and he's taught me a lot, as far as comedy chops. I came in acting, comedy, I was like, not too good. I can make you laugh, but if I'm trying to make you laugh, it'll probably be kind of weird. Yeah. But he helped show me some strategies and ways to make it easier, so I've been using it, And as far as acting is concerned and singing, practicing more, this gives me a great platform to, just keep practicing, and before you know it, you're getting better and better, and you're ready for the next level and just keep going. So this is definitely a great space to learn, grow. You definitely get to touch people. I come from Brooklyn, New York originally. I've done theater in New York, in the city. Yes, most definitely. So I remember the difference in this in New York is after the shows, you wouldn't really get to touch the people and really talk to them.
Interact.
It's just like
they're pay for it.
Yeah, it's like now here you get a chance to actually see people. Hey, you made my birthday, or you made my grandmother's or grandfather's birthday. We have people here literally crying and telling us, they enjoyed the show and how much they enjoyed it. So I'm just grateful to be here and to give people the experience and bless them with my God-given talents.
Is that the same for you, Shania?
Yes, it's honestly a humbling experience. You learn something new every single day while impacting lives and doing what you love, with people, great people, obviously.
Yeah, and the one thing I immediately noticed when I walk in the door is how intimate it is. Yes. And what I try to do, especially nowadays with music artists, is I try to make sure I get to the concerts on their way up so I can see them in the smaller venues, so they're right here. Say for instance, SZA, who's a top artist nowadays. Saw her in St. Louis in a place called Ready Room, which is probably about as big as this place, and it was so intimate. It was one of her first album, which is great. And now she's in stadiums, and it's like, I don't even know if I want to go to that, But one, my ticket all the way up in the nosebleeds is about $300. So it's kind of like, I'm not really sure. So I think we still got to have a place in the space for those small, intimate places. Because like you said, it really connects you to the audience, right?
Right. I agree with that in totality. And I also just like how, you know, just as we said earlier, the music and things, it transcends. Like, we have people to this day, he can say on the stage, hey, I got Brook Benton's grandson. He passed away in '88. We're in 2023. And we still have people that'll be jumping up, oh, wow, where is he at? Is he here? And actually, was it the show we did in Shara? I had my family, some family that I didn't know.
Wow.
They came to the show and said, hey, you my cousin. And I thought it was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Yeah. And then they came about 20 deep here, as they said they would, and they came and they showed love and took pictures, and it was just amazing just seeing how powerful theater can be and just the arts, because I'm just up here doing my job that, you know, using my God-given talents and abilities, and look at it. You have family that you never knew that was connected. They're showing me old pictures of my grandfather and people that were here that was like 80, 90 years old and still looking good. So I said, all right, I'm still going to be looking good when I'm 80 or 90 years old. All right, family. Yes, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's looking good. It's looking good. You got to love that. And you carry your grandfather around with you, too, on your chain.
Oh, yes.
Right?
That's him right there.
And what does that mean for you?
I keep him everywhere. I keep him in my heart. And it's just a reminder that I have a lot of work to do. And I just want to see his work, you know, come to a completion. I want him to be happy still. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it was still some things that I feel like that was left on the table as far as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is concerned. Sure. I'm making it my business to get him inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because it's well deserved. He's written for two artists that's already there. The Clyde McFadder, he's written for him. He's on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Donna Washington, he's collabed with her and written for her as well. So she's on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then it's like, give him his just due. I believe he's well deserving of it. Then we have one of the biggest hip hop artists to this day, Drake, still sampling his music and using his music. And I didn't even know about Gucci Mane. You actually hit me to that. So it's like at this point, I think we need to just give him his flowers and just, you know, do it for the family. And I am a part of the estate as well. So we would like to see that. And Drake, you know, the estate didn't see nothing, so. We love you, Drake. We just messing around. We love you, Drake. Keep on sampling. Anybody else? Kanye, Jay-Z, come on. Keep on sampling. Right, I just, you know, little. The estate matters, nothing personal.
And we talked about earlier within our conversation just about finding stages. You know, when there wasn't a stage, sometimes even stand on, to sing on, to be on. And now you've created that stage for this younger generation.
Yes.
What goes through your mind?
Well, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I was born in South Carolina. I was a kid, and I wanted to perform. I wanted, like, how do I get to New York? How do I get to LA? How do I get, like, you know, I used to watch these people on television. And I never had any mentors. I never had anybody who could say, hey, listen, I'm going to work with you. We want to make this thing happen. And basically, my wife and I had a house here, our summer home. So we come here for the summer, and we were here, and we went to a couple of shows, and I was like, wow, and I was like, my wife was like, you know, you should have your own space, and I was like, you know what, that'd be cool, so we can spend more time down here and be with my relatives. I got tons of relatives here, and so that's why we created the space. And then that's the reason why I try to recruit, you know, younger people so I can teach them. They, you know, a lot of people don't believe even that I was on the stage with a lot of people. So, because it's here, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, that dream is a long way from a small child. So, you know, and I love kids. I have a foundation here. I give kids scholarships. So when I created this space, I created it for a lot of kids. Matter of fact, one of the girls that I was acting with now, she's actually on the Netflix series with Craig Robinson.
It's amazing.
Yes, yeah. And so her name's Anna Mae. So she's on the Netflix special. So she's with Craig Robinson, and I said, tell him that you know me. She mentioned my name, and he said, let's call James right now. He said, yeah, that's my friend. You see what I'm saying? So, and I'm like, for Craig Robinson, for me, he says I'm his idol because I was way ahead of him. You know, I've been doing comedy for 40 years, and so he was in Atlantic City. We first met in Atlantic City. He didn't have any TV, and I walked in on the show at the Tropicana, and he was just like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? So, And so for that to happen, it's amazing things. Like with these kids, I'm trying to give them whatever I can give them and move them on to the next level, so other kids can come in and take their spots. I mean, they were, like I said, they were like babies, and now they're the seniors, and we have some really talented people on our shows. I mean, like I said, Ian Davis, 7-time Apollo winner. We got the, Jerome Gourdine, who sings with the Manhattans, so he still goes out and sing with them. We picked up this young man right here who's not just, singer, he's theatrical, and she's incredibly talented, because she, if you can do Beyonce, you can do anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so
those are hard songs.
Those are very hard songs, and she sings, dances, so she brings a lot to the table. So what I want them is to groom them, create their own shows. I think she can do a Tina Turner. There's a Tina Turner tribute show in Germany that's making millions of dollars.
Yes.
And then and he should do a one-man show and tribute to his grandfather. I think that would be that would actually do a 360 for his grandfather.
Oh yeah.
And that's how we push it forward, right?
Most definitely.
That's how we push it forward.
Most definitely. I like that idea. That's why I had those records that I had today, just to show. And when the last time we seen records or CDs? Everything is like social
media.
media.
To make a comeback. Now it's like, I got them on vinyl.
Yeah.
Vinyl.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, okay, well, how I'm gonna play it?
How I'm gonna play it.
Or is this just for, just for my wall? You know what I mean? I really don't know.
And I think that was also a great thing. I wanted to show that, because there was a point in time when my grandfather couldn't have his face, and not just him, black artists couldn't have their face on the records.
Yeah.
It was just whatever picture of some family, a Caucasian family, but not the actual artist. So time has, progressed and passed on, so we've made it, we came a long way.
Yeah.
We definitely came a long way.
We have. Yeah, there was definitely a period. I remember, I can't think of the artist now. But when he was performing, they didn't know he was a black artist. And they see him on stage and it's like, whoa, am I supposed to be liking this song? Yeah. So we've come a long way from now packing out the house with all types of people. Like you said, all types of people come out here.
And Darius, Darius crossed over the country.
Yeah.
Darius Rucker, and he's from
Transcending everything.
Yeah, I saw him when he was just in college. I was performing at a comedy club, talking about 30-some years ago, and he was playing in the band with all these white kids. Yeah. Wow. And he was singing, and I'm like,
look at Darius
and
now.
that's Darius. Look at Darius.
Now with festivals down in Charleston and everything.
Yes.
So just want to say thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Cool.
I really enjoyed this entire conversation. We have a long way to go.
Yes.
But we've come a long way as well.
Yes.
I want to say, blessings to all of you in your career. You've had a great career, but I know you're going to go even further, which is making so much good. But thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate you. And thank you for joining us here as well. Just so you know, all month long here on WMBF, we'll have our Black History Spotlights starting on WMBF News today at 5 a.m.